Greetings, yogis. Excited to see you at the mat today. I like saying that, but I do see you out there. And actually, I was thinking of our yoga community this morning as I was picking my first spring daffodils. And that's always a favorite moment in time when either I bring some in or you bring some in, and we get to practice with the first flowers of the season. I just love it. I hope that you're finding plenty of ways to be with beauty. And that's one of my questions to you to just ponder throughout our practice, but really throughout the week. What is your relationship with beauty? Is there anything in particular that draws you into it, into the beauty of the moment? It might be a connection with another human and something that was said. It may not be something visual. But there is so much out there right now that's changing that draws my eye. And in that moment, really brings me into this moment, this body, this breath. So I encourage you to move with curiosity throughout the week. What is your relationship with beauty? And also, what is your relationship with breath? Again, we can notice it on the mat, and we very much want to be in focus on breath, especially when we're doing flow, as we'll be doing tonight, because it's very easy to get kind of shortened, rushed breath, and that's not yoga. So we want our focus there. But also, how are you breathing when you're out, maybe clearing out garden beds or just walking, or again, talking? I know a lot of people are spending more time than they would like on computers. I know that's not true of everybody, but that's a place where it becomes really easy to just kind of stagnate. Our body will tend to slump and our breath will get very shallow. And as a result, our alertness, I think our sense of pleasure will tend to also decline. So if we can remember breath by even noticing, oh gosh, I'm holding my breath, or it's just shallow, and then reignite the root and reach in the body that creates that breath space. And then we take an active, intentional breath. Often our mood can change, certainly our energy level, our ability to give our attention intentionally, thoughtfully. So it's all part of one whole. So inviting you to be very attentive to those things off the mat and then on the mat together today. We are exploring the flow of sun salutation, particularly sun salutation A, which traditionally is done with a knee down, although as you'll hear me mention often, people adapt it to do it in a lunge, either because that feels better for their knee or it's just the version they like practicing. I have always slowed sun salutations way down. So whereas they're traditionally done one movement, one breath, I've often paused longer in a pose to feel it, to find the right alignment, to be able to notice how is breath moving in this shape that my body's making currently. So I'll be guiding you through it a couple of times today and doing much slower the first time than the second time. But you can also just do it the way you want. Do it slower, hit replay, make me do it as many times as you want. It's a new kind of control you've got when we're doing this via video and not in person. So take advantage of it. You could just sit and watch and be eating. I wouldn't know, right? But do have fun noticing what's your right pace right now in sun salutation as we do it first one time much slower and then the second time with a little bit more pace through. We're going to be doing a few things just to get us into our core and kind of a loosened spine so that we can come into sun salutation with health and well-being. Having said that, please continue to make adaptations as your body talks to you and tells you like, maybe this pose isn't right today, because of course you can do it a different day, right? This is just this yoga practice. It's different than any you've ever done before or will ever do again. And I'm glad that you're here. We're going to start with breath locks. And it's a really simple breath technique. I feel like the mechanics of it are very simple, but I feel like it offers a lot of information. And for those of you who are new to it, just inviting you to notice as much as you can physically, but also we often like to see, well, what's there emotionally? How do I feel about holding my breath? Is it peaceful or is it kind of anxiety building? right? So just really having your attention there. I'm going to do it in a seated position. This is one way to be seated. You could even place a block under the butt so that the kneeling is more comfortable. You could grab your bolster. You could also just be standing or doing this on your back with me if you'd like. When you're ready to join me, please close your eyes up and in and notice what you see behind the center of the forehead. Colors, darkness. And then connecting the end of the tongue at the roof of the mouth behind the front teeth lightly. This says, I am here and present in my body, in my yoga practice. The rest of the tongue and throat and jaw being soft says, I'm not striving. There's nowhere to get to, nothing to check off a list or to accomplish or to perfect. Just each pose, each breath, each moment. What would it feel like to add a soft smile? Can you let that softening spread throughout the face, throughout the cheeks, the temples, the forehead, almost as if you were lifting your face to the sunshine, letting it be greeted and warmed. That same opening and welcoming right here in our practice. And lastly, inviting you to add your slight throat contraction, ujjayi, great sounding breath. And as you come into ujjayi, there's an opportunity to hear that whooshing and active sound of the inhale and exhale. And there's also the beautiful gift of the quiet moment, the pause between. See if you can find that and start to engage your core as it participates with the breath. So on the exhale, ujjayi, kind of drawing the abdomen towards the spine. And on the inhale, inviting the abdomen to really fill. Notice if your mind has wandered, that's its nature. Don't be concerned or get caught up in judging it. Just notice and return your attention. Each of us may have a favorite tool of attention. Ujjayi is one of my favorites, that throat contraction. For some of you, it might be the light connection of the tongue. It might be thinking, inhaling, inhaling, exhaling, exhaling. Is there more? So it might be kind of a verbal witnessing of the breath. And for some people, the gaze is very, very powerful. We like to activate it in yoga. In this case, I had you closing the eyes to look up and in. But when we are in our physical practice, occasionally we might choose to close the eyes to recenter, but usually they're open in a drishti gaze, and that's kind of a soft daydream-like focus. And so throughout our practice, you'll have me reminding you of some of the locations you might place that drishti gaze. It means that you're not darting around looking at detail, that there's that just sort of soft, steady gaze, really looking at nothing outside of you because your attention is inside. And there's a wonderful phrase about where your attention is grows, basically. So we know that attention is exceedingly powerful, and one form of attention is that visual seeing or imagining. So I'm going to ask you to continue here with your breath, ujjayi, noticing the gap, I hope. And what would it be like for you to open the eyes in that soft drishti gaze? If you're seated, placing it just sort of ahead of you upon the floor, same thing standing. If you're lying down, it would simply be on the ceiling. See if you can take a few more breaths, continuing to turn your seeing inside, even though the eyes are open. Good, and we're going to be moving into breath locks. I invite you to, if this is really new to you, to close the eyes so that it's a little easier to focus. If you'd like that additional challenge, keep them open. And as you're ready, on your next exhale, just a soft emptying, no compression, empty the breath and hold out external breath lock, external kumbhaka. Continue to soften around the holding, the neck, the jaw, the tongue, the lips, the eyebrows. Notice that initial instinct to breathe. Hold just past that instinct. When appropriate, inhale and hold in internal breath lock. And observing the physical sensations of the lock, but also any energetic ones. Are you anxious? Are you relaxed? And holding just past that initial instinct to release, and then slowly letting the breath go. I'm going to invite you to do this with me one more time, and I'll invite you actually to direct your inner seeing in a particular way this time. When you're ready, inhale. If you'd like, sweep the arms out and up. If you're seated, you could also do it laying. Exhaling, seated, fold. Empty the breath, and then come back to upright, holding out. And have your attention on the center of your body. See if you can picture it just being spacious, receptive for breath, for life force. Feel it expanding, softening. When you need to breathe, inhale, direct the breath up, and now your inner seeing up into that third eye, as we call it, behind the center of the forehead, and hold in. This is a lovely moment to invite insight, inner seeing into your body and being, also intuition, connection with the divine, whatever you would like to invite in terms of wisdom or knowing. And again, holding just past that initial instinct to release. And then when you do, please reflect a moment. If there's anything in particular you'd like to have your focus on, your attention on in your practice today. Perhaps there's a particular thing like breath or a particular body part that maybe has been a little sore and you just want to be in a state of attention and get to know more about it or protect it. Maybe you're wanting to wake up and ignite and strengthen certain muscles that you've felt are weak or kind of lax. Maybe there's a larger intention around kind of the spiritual part of the practice. Do you want to be more compassionate, less judgmental in each pose, right? So these are the kinds of, I guess, richness that we can bring to our practice. When you feel complete with that reflection, go ahead and join me coming on down to your back body. If you were seated, you might want to roll ankles out, etc. And then we'll come on down
We're going to come first into knees to belly. So this is a nice way to just gently wake up the spine, kind of rolling a little side to side and noticing what's in there. We're going to then come into robot pose, and I've been talking through kind of the building stages of it, and you're welcome to just do part at a time. Otherwise, the full robot, now I have you flex your feet, knees are into the belly. I'm going to power down through my back and then slowly take my knees away from me until I feel that they're over the hip bones. And I want to hold them there firmly. I'm going to add arms straight up, shoulder heads anchoring down. I'm going to take a full breath here, practicing breathing in this very active pose. Big inhale. Big exhale, powering down through the back. Good. One more full inhale. This is our neutral. We always want to focus on breath here, getting that nice energy and life force that comes along with the breath. When you're ready on the exhale, power down. Slowly take one heel and opposite hand in opposite directions. Hold in flight, as I call it. Deep inhale, still rooting. Exhale, come on back. Big inhale in neutral. And a reminder that you're going to go on your exhale to only as far feels right. It might just be a little bit or a full extension, the heel lightly touching down, maybe the thumb touching, although the goal is to reach your hand to the wall behind. Big inhale. Exhale, come on back. Good. And you can take a break in between rounds. I think it's really valuable because it makes sure then that no muscles are going into gripping, kind of ever holding. We want them to just be powerful and alert, not kind of gripping. So as you're ready to join me, again, notice if it felt great, and if not, find a way to make it strong and yet peaceful. So maybe that's doing a smaller action. Long inhale in neutral, Ujjayi. Exhaling into robot. Check that none of the other limbs are moving. Big inhale. Exhale, return. Good. Let's finish that last side. Big inhale. Bringing breath into as many parts of your body as you can. Exhale. Last side. Inhale, neutral. Or in flight, I should say. Exhale, back to neutral. Lovely. We're going to come into bridge, a beautiful opposite. Plant those feet beneath the knees. If you'd like, imagine that you've got a block there. Work the shoulder heads beneath, taking pressure off the neck. Long inhale. Exhale. Press the hips up and explore your bridge. I often mention that you can pulse out and come back in. I feel like this is a great way to really reawaken the back body, the posterior chain, all the muscles that get a little bit out of sorts with sitting too much. And when you are feeling complete with that exploration, or if you've been holding, pause. I'm going to take hands to hips for leg extensions. So as you're ready, straightening through one heel. Breathe. Notice if the hip dropped. If so, stabilize it again. And then the other leg. And remember, if the hip is dropping and you can't stabilize it or your back is hurting, then you just want to go into a small lift of the foot off the floor, not going into full extension. Trying not to use the neck, softening through there. Soft tongue, lightly connected roof of the mouth. And releasing. Lovely. Bring knees to belly again. We're going to take it into spinal twist, and I know everybody's got their own version, their own beloved. Always feel free to go there. I'm going to take us from this center position. I'm going to take my arms out to a T and then firmly anchor the shoulder blades towards the floor. I'm also really cognizant of my thighs. They're activated together, feet flexed, so that as I exhale and slowly lower my legs to the left, They're really connected. The back is stabilized. And then I'm going to eventually let the legs touch down, even if it means that this back arm is now off the floor. I kind of hope for your sake it is, because that's actually where you get so much stretch through the chest and so on. Playing with your arm alignment, where is your best position? You might rotate it all the way around the body. You might just sweep it up and down or follow it with your vision. You might extend that top leg to get a stretch through the hip and thigh. Again, if it doesn't feel great, come on out. I always say we're seeking the ah. So even in our edge, which is intense, it should feel good, like we welcome it, we kind of crave it. One more long inhale, big belly. Exhaling, return by bending the knees again, connecting the thighs, and come on back. Inhale, center, rooting through that backhand. Exhaling, taking the legs to the right. Opening that left palm to the sky. And again, please explore your best version of the pose. Where does your neck want to be? What rotation feels good in the shoulder? And adding that extension of the leg if that feels appropriate. Flexing firmly through your heel, big inhales. If we're really inviting deep inhale, we should feel that it kind of pulses the body like an object riding a wave. You'll notice my back arm rises and falls with breath because I'm breathing past the resistance. Once again, bend that second leg, connect the thighs, belly to spine, and come on back. Let's widen the knees for happy baby. You might be clasping at the big toe or at the blades of the feet, the ankles. Some of you might prefer a strap. Feel free to grab one. But ideally, we're connecting the shoulder heads down the floor, bringing the knees as close to the floor as we can, and then guiding a really deep breath there. It's like you're pushing breath down into the lower abdomen and hips. If you feel that your tailbone's curling way off the floor, try and anchor it back on down so that the low back is connected. Couple more breaths. And we might close by bringing those heels together in butterfly. You can always express out into a straddle or a half straddle. The more that we let the body tell us what's needed, the better practice that we have. The more it's yoga that we're practicing and not some sort of striving. We're going to be coming into reclined pigeon. Now, the classic way that we've taught it, the most simple, easy form, is crossing that right ankle onto the left thigh and bringing the right knee into the belly. I'm going to invite instead a little different version. It's a little more intense for some of us, so see what you think. I'm going to bring that right knee into the belly with my hands only, keeping my left leg vigorously extended through the foot. Then I'm going to grab a hold of my foot with my left hand. So that's the caveat, is being able to make that connection here. Shoulder heads anchor down the floor. And first, I just want you to notice what it feels like to take that leg a little right and left. So I'm kind of pushing with my hand to send my knee out to the right and kind of then bringing it back. When I'm ready, I'm going to hug it tightly right at the center, right towards my chest. And then invitation to add your version. Sometimes we like adding a little sit-up, maybe lifting that left leg, and sometimes it feels good to rock the whole thing a little side to side. And release. And find your other side. Right leg vigorously extending, left knee coming into the belly, shoulder heads anchoring down the floor. And I can rotate a little left and right. And I'm going to do that in a bigger way after I grab my foot with my hand. And now I've got that hand to kind of push the knee out into that kind of pigeon angle that we take usually when we're laying on the leg. So this is nice. This position on the back gives us a lot more freedom and range of motion, which I like. It also reduces the chances of injuring our knee because we aren't putting weight on it. You're really controlling and monitoring it here with your hands. Big breath. And if appropriate in your body, adding a little sit-up motion, maybe a little rotation. And slowly releasing. Lovely. I'm going to bring us into one last bridge just as a nice counter pose. So as you're ready, head on up. If you're feeling ready for Yoga Mudra, intertwine those hands behind the back. We'll be doing this hand position in one more pose later on in the practice. So see what it feels like to try and get your shoulder heads towards each other and down the back body. Pinkies pressing towards the floor, fists pressing towards the heel, knees drawing away from you as the thighs engage. It's like you're squeezing something. One more big breath into your belly and heart space. Bring your attention to your ribs. See if you can get a breath stretch there. And slowly as you can on down, one rib at a time. Nice work. I'm going to spinal rock up to a seated position. If you like more spinal rocking as an activity to get up to mountain, feel free to do that. So you would just kind of get some momentum going and get up on your feet like so. But not everybody's bodies appreciate that. So I'm coming up to a seated position, and then I'm just going to kick my feet out behind and come right into a ragdoll. So join me in ragdoll a moment. This is such a wonderful hamstring stretch, hip stretch, decompression for the spine. Knees are bent, and I'm kind of shifting my weight forward and back in the foot, and also a little side to side, just letting that massage move throughout the body. And let's move the breath throughout this shape. We're going to be coming into some forward folds during our sun salutation. Remember, please, you never have to have the legs straight, even though you'll often see it depicted that way in sun salutation videos and that kind of thing. You never have to straighten the legs, but what we do want to do is always engage the belly. So practice with me here, like a compression exhale. Big inhale. Exhale, belly to spine, allowing you to fold more deeply. Chest and face coming closer to your legs. Try that again. Maybe inhale, give it a little room. Your fingers might be on the floor. Remember, you can always bring them up onto the shin bones. And exhale, deep compression, fold. Inhaling, root and rise. And join me upright in mountain. So I'd like to do a little bit of range of motion with our arms so that we really know what's in our shoulders today before we're coming into a whole flow. And so first of all, just notice how you feel when they're in prayer hands, Anjali Mudra. When here, I often intentionally connect the thumbs right at the heart space here. And I might have my drishti gaze out over the fingers if I have the hands further out. Otherwise, it's on a steadiness on the wall. I can also have my arms activated down in that kind of jet airplane action. Feel what that's like in your body today. I might be sweeping the arms straight out or up into a V, or where we commonly go in the classic sun salutation positions is with the palms coming together and possibly looking up through the head. I want you to notice, how does that feel? Do you notice a bunch of neck tension? If so, always keep the head neutral and possibly have the arms in more of a V position than together. Okay, so we're going to do just a little range of motion here with breath, starting with your feet in mountain, and that's the kind of 4 to 6 to 8 inches depending on the width of your hips, but it's these hip bones. Start with them down, please, in jet airplane. Shoulder heads activated down, core connected, chin lightly drawing back towards the base of the skull. Light connection to the tip of the tongue, soft drishti gaze.
And as you're ready, make a slow journey with your inhale, sweeping the hands out and up, wherever they resolve. What's your version? And on the exhale, turn the palms out and sweep slowly down. And we'll do that a couple more times. See if you can get your breath to initiate the motion. So we'll just be in the position until the inhale comes, sweeping us out and up, asking, is there more? And there until we know it's exhale time, out and down. Is there more? As you continue this last round, can you reignite your feet into the earth and feel that reach up through the head, right through the base or kind of back of the top of the skull? Nice. And please return the hands to prayer now at the heart. Close the eyes a moment and focus on bringing breath not just into the front body, but the side and the back. Can you create any more space for breath through that vigorous root and reach? Beautiful. Let breath be our guide, our instigator. It also tells us when we've come out of wholeness, out of yoga, and we're striving. So feel free to pause anytime and reclaim breath. Otherwise, slowly inhale, root and sweep out and up. Is there more? Exhaling, fold. Nice compression. Empty, empty, empty. Inhale, extend halfway up. Exhale, step back with your right foot only and drop down to the knee. Long inhale here. You can have the hands higher up on the knee if having them down to the floor is awkward on your back. Exhaling, step back to your plank. We're going to hold a big inhale, and meantime, I'm going to drop to my knees and invite you to start there in this first round and check that your hands are directly below your shoulders. Long inhale. Exhale, belly to spine, chaturanga. Bend those elbows just a little or a lot. All the way to the floor, anchoring the pelvis. No wings, no shrugs. Inhale to your cobra. Exhale back to downward facing dog. Inhaling, bring that right foot forward, the same leg we started with. We call it our lead leg. Come down to the knee. And exhaling, forward fold. Powerful core. Inhaling, root and rise. Exhaling, resolve. Again, hands might be at the heart space or down into jet airplane. So those are our basic movements. And like I said, we did that with our right leg as our lead leg. We're going to do that now on the other side, left leg, lead leg. And I'm going to have us pause in each pose to really feel where the breath is happening. So inhaling, sweeping out and up or forward and up, maybe even adding a back bend, and hold. Find your root and reach. Check in with your neck. Feel breath in this shape. Shoulder heads down, lots of ease inside of the power. One more big inhale. Exhaling, fold. Hold here. Notice this is a challenging pose to breathe into in ragdoll or forward fold. Emphasize the breath and the core strength. See if you can get your torso to fold a little more deeply towards your legs. Last exhale.
Then inhaling, extend halfway up.
Notice what it feels like for you to keep the legs bent or to try and straighten them. I can straighten mine. I get a much better physical experience with my legs bent. I feel like I'm able to extend more through the spine and not really feel like a pull at the top of the hamstring where we don't want it. If we're having a stretch, we want it in the meat. And then notice your head position. It's very tempting to crane it forward, but I invite you instead to just reach the heart forward. So the head is actually pretty neutral. I'm kind of looking a little forward of the mat, not far. Exhaling, fold and step back, left leg, lead leg, and come on down to your knee. Breathe here. If you're comfortable on your knee, then just focus on reaching the heart forward away from that knee. If you are better off in a lunge, you're kind of creating that same reach. If you need to be up with hand on knee, then it just feels a little different sending the heart towards the wall because now your head is atop the spine. When we're in these other positions, we really want to be careful not to crank them. Exhaling, step back to your plank. Good. Now maybe you're doing knees down again. Otherwise, you might be in a full extended plank. Big inhale. Exhale, chaturanga. How slow and low can you go? All the way to the floor for cobra. Anchor the pelvis, and we're just going to pulse in and out of cobra a couple times here. So your deepest cobra, drawing that heart off the mat, away from the pelvis, that's your root. Exhale, sinking a little bit. And you're really thinking about drawing your shoulder heads towards those heels. And on your exhale, press back downward facing dog. It might be via the knees, or maybe bring the feet under and press back. Check in with dog. Make sure you get to know your dog for today. Shoulder heads rotating out, anchoring through those hands. Nice core drawn into the back. On an inhale, bring that left foot forward. And again, notice how hard that is for you. You can always grab it, get it in place. Maybe you're dropping that back knee, and maybe you're staying hands on the floor or bringing them up to the knee or into the lunge. Whichever version you're in, I want you to pause, please, and reach the heart forward away from either the knee or the foot, if that's what you're on. And on an exhale, stepping to your forward fold. Inhaling, root and rise. Exhaling, prayer hands. Good, so we're gonna flow through in a moment in another round into another round of this at a faster pace. Breath is still the focus. We're just gonna be doing it more like one position per part of breath. So just notice how this felt. Notice if there are any adaptations that your body needs today and make those the priority. So again, don't worry if you lag behind what I'm offering or your breath might be a lot faster. Maybe it takes you less time to get a full inhale. Okay, let's find our mountain stance. Hands down, heart open, light connection to the tip of the tongue. And opening your gaze, soft drishti gaze. On your next inhale, root and rise. Exhaling, fold. Inhaling, rise halfway. Exhaling, step back, right leg only. Inhaling to your plank. Exhaling, chaturanga. Inhaling, cobra. Is there more? Exhaling, downward facing dog. Inhaling, right foot forward. Exhaling, forward fold. Inhaling, root and rise. And exhaling, resolve. Breathe, notice the texture of your breath. Notice if you take on any points of tension in your jaw, your tongue, etc. And of course, always take time to love up things like wrists and ankles. And we'll come into our flow on the other side with the left leg, our lead leg. When you're ready, let that next inhale take you in, sweeping out and up. Exhaling, fold. Inhaling, extend halfway. Exhaling, step back, left leg. Inhaling, step to your plank. Exhaling, chaturanga. Inhaling, cobra, thighs anchoring. Exhaling, downward facing dog. Inhaling, left leg steps forward. Exhaling, forward fold. Inhaling, root and rise. Exhaling, prayer hands. Again, notice the texture of your breath, the heat in the body, and if you took on anything negative, neck tension, things like that, we want to roll those things out, shake them out, and so on. So we're going to get off of our hands for a little bit here and come into some warrior flow. And as always, I encourage you to add your own versions and so on. After our warrior flow, we're going to get into what I think is a really great hip stretch. I hope you'll really enjoy it. So we're going to get loosened up first with warrior. I'm going to take us here from standing crane, from mountain at the front of the mat and lifting a knee. If you want to start from downward facing dog, you always can. Otherwise, right here again, feel that connective power of the core, the root and reach, and all of the soft open spaces in between. Now bend the knees and kind of push the earth away. Inhaling, left knee lifts, standing crane. Take all the time you can. Exhaling, step back to your crescent lunge. Inhaling, express yourself in the pose. Maybe as it's arms up or out or down. You can always play with movement here. And I know some people really enjoy adding yoga mudra here. I love it too, for the root and reach from my heart forward to my fists back. On an exhale, warrior two, Virabhadrasana 2. Back foot is 90 degrees. We always check our own alignment of that front foot, knee, thigh bone. And we'd love our shoulders also to be stacked in front and behind one another. It's like we're between two panes of glass. Letting breath move us like we're riding a wave. Inhaling, sweep up with that front hand, straight or bent knee. Exhaling forward to our lateral stretch or our side angle stretch. So we're starting with that elbow on the thigh, shoulder heads anchoring down. I should have warned you, actually, it'd be great if you have your block handy. If it's within your space, go ahead and grab it. And this is a nice place to just check in. Would it feel good to go deeper? Would you lose anything? If your butt comes out behind, your chest is facing the floor, you definitely want to come back up, right? We want that nice long line. And I tend in this position to turn my drishti gaze towards my floor foot. And maybe you can go a little lower without the block. We'll be playing with this more later, so you'll have an opportunity to check it all out. All right. And we're going to rotate out to our downward facing dog. So
As you're ready, plant those hands, come onto the ball of the back foot. Nice long inhale. I want you to get into your core, shoulder heads activated down. Try to lift that foot rather than dragging it. What I call reduce the swoosh. Downward facing dog. Join me in a sighing breath, drishti gaze between the feet. One more. And you might return to your mountain with one lunge at a time or walking the hands back to the feet. And we can also hop there. Inhale, bend the knees and look forward. Exhale, belly to spine, hop. And we'll meet upright, coming into our mountain pose. So again, checking in with your breath, your heart rate. If you want a sip of water, this is a good time. Anytime's a good time. All right, let's find our warrior on the other side. I love the warrior series, Virabhadrasana. It's a great reminder of how to be rooted and in ourselves and what we know to be true, and also be really flexible and open-hearted and peaceful with what comes at us in the world. An interesting balance. All right, let's sink on in and bring that right knee up, standing crane. Big inhale. Lots of power in the center body, softness in the neck. Exhale, reach back, standing crane. Crescent lunge. Landing on the ball of that back foot. Steering those hip bones, and again, expressing yourself. You know, we often make these really active reaches, but it can be lovely too to be soft. So what would it be like here to just have the arms soft, receptive? One more long inhale, reaching through that back thigh. Exhale, Virabhadrasana 2. Again, we could be in platter hands. Go ahead and again, look back, check your own back foot alignment, front leg alignment, finding that sense of power and peace. One more breath, rising and falling. Inhaling, reaching up through the front arm, and I'm counter reaching down through that back arm, and I'm turning my vision down to the mat as well. I find that's the easiest on my neck. But of course, my seeing is inside. I'm noticing where the breath is traveling in this kind of taut shape that I've created. One more long inhale. And exhaling forward towards lateral stretch, engaging that rib cage towards the sky. And again, we'd love to notice, what would it feel like to come closer to the floor? And maybe you want the block for that. Maybe you don't need that. You could tense your fingertips. But again, the telltale thing is if my butt goes out behind me at all, then I've lost something. And I'd much rather come on up to this position where I can really feel, in this case, that the left glute hip is pressing towards the right edge of my mat. One more long inhale if you want to open that top arm and rib to the sky. Exhale, downward facing dog, reduce the swoosh. So I actually often pause here to gather good enough inhale to hiya, lift that foot. Inhale, exhale, sigh. Again. Lovely. Come into your child's pose or whatever resting pose calls to you. And a reminder that this can look so different on different days and in everyone's body. I showed this week in the Monday Basics class other ways to be in a kind of the effects or the gifts of child's pose, and it could include being seated on a couch or an ottoman. So we always want to find the place that our body can say yes and receive the gifts of the posture. Where do you notice breath moving in you and touching you? Good. We're going to tuck our tailbones to come out of this pose. So it's as if we're coming into cat back. A lot of power right here in the core. I don't even need my hands. Marvelous. All right, we're going to play, as I promised, a little bit deeper with the warriors, specifically getting into that kind of side angle, extended side angle pose. But part of what we're doing is we're actually setting up to explore what it would feel like to go into partial bind and binding. If you've never heard of that, mainly it just usually means when we're clasping our hands. So we're binding our hands when we're in yoga mudra, and we can add kind of partial binds where we're just sort of wrapping our arm around behind and that sort of thing. The gift of these is that they tend to give us some wonderful stretching, but also that they will offer us some intense places to breathe into. And it becomes more obvious in these positions that we're not activating deep breath, that we're just kind of huffing and puffing inside of what's tight or difficult. And if we bring our attention to breath and we still can't breathe there, then we just know we're too deep in a pose, that it's too much for us. So in this posture, go ahead and come sideways on your mat in straddle pose, please. And we want to get as deep as we can. That's really the first thing, is if we want a chance to get our hand down to the floor or even behind our leg a little, which is what I'm going to be offering you. The wider apart our feet are, the more chance that's all going to happen because I'm getting closer and closer to the floor, right? And again, if that just doesn't work, you'll be adding the block to bring the floor to you, okay? So first, turn your right foot 90 degrees and find that deepest lunge that you comfortably can. Grab the block and just explore how low can your hand come down, how low can the block go, and still stay in a really open, stacked shoulder position. And maybe you don't even need it, and you can bring the hands down to the floor. Maybe you can bring that right hand behind the right heel. So I'm taking it actually about 6 inches behind my feet. And I want to see if from here I can reignite opening. And that takes my glutes pressing firmly towards this open edge of the mat. And from there I might open that top arm. Or I'm going to now add a partial bind. So I'm going to rotate and bring my hand down behind so the top of the hand is coming onto my lower back. And it can be kind of fun sometimes to actually even take that hand and wrap it onto gripping that thigh, if you can. And if it doesn't hurt, if you feel a kind of awkward pull, it's not just a good stretch, then just come right out of it, okay? Otherwise, you would hold here and try to open that chest without cranking on the neck. So again, I almost always turn my head back towards the floor. See if you can get a little lower. Get those hips towards that front heel. And then slowly unwinding. Then you can always, of course, come out to dog, downward dog series, whatever you'd like. I'm going to bring us straight back up so we can go straight into the other side. And I'm going to just go the other direction so you can see what all those placements look like from the other side if you're using my body as kind of a guide. So again, take those feet as wide as you can. Feel that they're stable, that the toes are spreading, just like our intelligent hands. Turn that left foot 90 degrees. And again, check in with your lunge, starting with the block. Maybe you've got it in the tallest position. Maybe you're coming down all the way to the floor. And again, I'm using that top hand to remind this top hip to rotate. It's also the reminder to this glute to send the hips that way. And now I'm going to let my chest rotate towards the floor in order to settle my left hand about 6 inches back from that center line of the mat or where my feet are. And then I'm going to see if I can reopen from there. So this requires a lot of root and reach in a lot of directions. And that's really the key, is rooting in the back and reaching long. I'm also rooting down with my floor hand while I'm reaching up through that top shoulder. And then I might come around in a partial bind. Let yourself get breath. You'll notice on the exhale, you've got more power to root and reach and to rotate. Always give breath precedence. Last one.
and slowly on out. Again, I'm coming out kind of an awkward way. Normally we would be doing that pose as a part of a flow. A nice opposite to just kind of ignite ourselves into a neutral again is if you've got that block, grab it, put it between your legs, and just squeeze. Come into kind of a standing jet airplane. And so you can kind of feel that you're strengthening and igniting all these things that you just kind of opened and stretched. Now you're strengthening them the other direction. So we're hopefully creating some good balance. All right, I'm going to offer this other hip stretch that I was talking about. And it's not very complicated. It's just often a position that we don't really do. So we're used to coming into lunges, right? But rarely do we try to come lower than the leg, right? So I want you to step back with one foot into a lunge. You'll be on your mat. I'm just going sideways here so that you can kind of see what I'm doing. And I've got enough space left to right between my feet that I can kind of have my hands inside, or again, you might be using a block here. But we're going to pretend that we want to kiss the floor. If you need to be down on your back knee, go for it. Otherwise, that back thigh is hyper powerful, pressing up towards the sky. Okay, so whether you're using a block or your hands are on the floor, we're going to take a big inhale, root and reach, power in my core, which is drawing up. I'm going to try and lower my face and chest as if I want to kiss the floor. I'm going to just pulse in and out of that. And I actually don't care about kissing the floor. What I care about is that wonderful stretch I'm getting in my right hip when I'm in that lowest position. Some of you might even be able to come down onto your left forearm into this position, or even onto both forearms. What I find is on my left forearm, I'm still getting a good stretch. If I come down onto the right forearm also, then my body kind of goes into just holding, which is not what we want. All right, when you're ready, come out of that side and come into the other side. I'll go back into the normal position on the mat here for you to see that. So again, you might come from mountain or however you'd like, but you're going to just step on back. Bring your hands inside of that front foot. Please make sure that that front knee is absolutely over the heel. We do not want it behind at all, or this is a completely different thing if the knee is forward of the heel or heel behind the knee. All right, power in that back leg, unless you've got it on the floor. Shoulder heads down the back, core into the back body. Kiss the earth. Or maybe you just want to blow it a kiss. Maybe coming onto that right forearm. Maybe coming onto the left as well. And when you are ready, come on up and come out however you'd like. I'm going to come out through downward facing dog, and then we're going to actually come to our bellies. So if you'd like, just come on down to your front body right now. If you know that you need a strap for when we do bow pose, please do go grab it. If you'd prefer, by the way, a standing quad stretch, remember that's here. Otherwise, come on down to that front body. Resting on the forehead. And actually, let's just take a moment here and get a couple of breaths being a lump. Notice all the good work you're doing, all the heat, the heart rate, I hope. Inhale, gap. Exhale, gap. And we started out talking about where our attention is placed and our breath, but also on beauty or goodness. And it's worth just noticing, again, kind of what your language to yourself is during your practice. Is it loving, affirming, curious, or kind of judgy and irritated, or what have you? We really want to shift towards the former. We know that every thought translates immediately into a chemical reaction in the body. All right, so let's come into bow. So I'm going to actually come onto one forearm and reach back with the one hand first. And I want to make sure I've got a nice glute squeeze there before I try and grab that second leg. I can also have my yoga toes flaring those toes out. So it just creates a lot of aliveness in the whole body. It's very alert. Glutes anchoring down. If I want to rest the forehead on the floor, then I'm just in what I call pre-bow. And it's a great stretch for those quads. I can kind of soften the butt and re-engage. Shoulder heads down the back. Taking a big inhale. Exhale. Engage those glutes more firmly. On your next exhale, press those ankles back into the hands. And some of you will enjoy just staying right here with the challenge of breathing inside the pose. Otherwise, you might enjoy just coming out on the exhale and reigniting it on the inhale. And release. Turn your head to the side once more. Sighing breaths say, I am well, I am whole, I am safe. One more opportunity to add yoga mudra arms in a pose. So right here, please, again, anchor the pelvis, intertwine the hands, maybe the non-dominant hand intertwinement, and then pressing the fists towards the heels. So taking a big inhale, make sure the pelvis is still anchored. And then when you're ready, reaching those fists back towards the heels as you draw forward through the spine. Notice I'm not looking forward and compressing my neck. I've got a nice long spine. See if you got one more in there. And release. Let's press back to child's pose. Shoulder heads anchor, butt cheeks anchor, press back. And it might feel good as kind of a counter shape to the yoga mudra to do the active arm position here in child's, where we tent our fingertips and walk them forward until we get the forearms all the way off the floor. Deep breath. And then relax. So again, asking you to tune into your breath, to notice what you've created there. What we'd love to have in our body is the ability to feel powerful and engaged and to assert with intensity on whatever we're doing. And maybe it's, cleaning gardens and planting things, but to be able to do it without any of the signals in the body that represent stress. So the jaw clenching or tongue sandwiching against the roof of the mouth, the neck tightening, shoulders shrugging, any of those things, the belly not moving, any of those things symbolize that we're in some version of stress. So earlier in this week's practice, the Monday basics, I went through the basics of gate pose. So if you're unfamiliar with it, you might want to revisit that. Otherwise, we're going to go from gate into some kind of add-on options. And these can be a little wrist intensive. So if your wrists are feeling already a little too much today, you might hold this for another time or just do a little bit and come out fast. Otherwise, I want you to please find stable table. And that means that my core is engaged all the way from that low kind of robot belly to that center rib cage sternum, that I don't really feel like I need my hands, that I've got a lot of upward lift. Another way to check it is that if you lift one hand and one knee, or that you extend those limbs, that you're not collapsing. So finding nice, long, abiding breath here, even inside the power of your table pose. And then as you're ready, we'll step back with the left foot, placing it 90 degrees. Squeeze that right butt cheek, anchor the shoulder head, and come on up into your gate pose. Good. Check that you're really rooting and reaching, and you might check and see if you can lift that right knee off of the floor. If you can, invitation to then extend that leg forward, maybe even looking up. Notice, however, if when you do that, this leg is kind of bending or collapsing, then that's not, either you're not ready for the pose or you just forgot to talk to this leg. So we really need that deep root and reach, okay? So holding there, if it feels good, when you're ready, you'll come out and we'll come into the other side. So return to your table, take that right foot back, squeeze the left hip towards the right edge of the mat, open on up. Good. See if you can lift that floor knee. And if so, slowly extend forward. And again, you might choose to look open. And I noticed I was kind of bending that standing leg, so I reactivate it. And as you're ready, come on back. Nice. And you might take a breath, roll wrists, that sort of thing. So that's one kind of fun version. Otherwise, we have two other goodies that I really like. And one is just coming into sidearm plank directly, because sometimes some people come from gate, and I'll show you that. I'm going to show you the two ways to get there. So you'll step back with your left foot only, and you come into gate. I usually keep my hand on my hip if I'm going to do this. And then you stack that other foot underneath, right? And that's how you come in to your sidearm plank. But I find it's really hard for a lot of people to get their feet correct and their thighs active that way. So I find it much easier to just, if you're wanting to enjoy the power of that pose, come into your plank, place your right hand a little closer to the center line, then rotate with both legs at the same time and coming in. And I just find that to be a lot better. Okay, so let's do that on the other side. You pick your entry. So again, maybe you're coming into gate and then getting the legs together. Maybe you're coming directly from plank and rotating onto the feet. Notice I've got them super flexed. Another option that you can add on if you're feeling stable and you want to play is taking that top leg up, breathing, and as you're ready, come on out. Good. We've probably had enough wrist stuff for today, so let's love those up. We're going to actually come into our final active posture, and then we'll get a little dessert using the block if you've got one. Otherwise, you can use a kind of folded up blanket or something. We're going to come into tree pose, and my hope is that we've challenged and used our root and reach, our legs, our core, everything enough that this is a little bit difficult, even for those of you that have really good and easy balance. So we're going to start by, first of all, making our base really small. Get those big toes touching. See if you can spread the other toes. Wake them up. How much mat do you see in there? All right, and then coming back up, I'm going to root and reach and just check in that I'm not kind of arching through the chest. It's a really common thing that happens, but it actually doesn't serve us. We want to feel powerfully settled into our spine, into our core strength. And let's find breath here. Maybe you want to have hands in prayer as a starting point. Totally up to you. What would it be like to close your eyes here? And as you do so, notice if you feel a little challenge, maybe like a tall skyscraper kind of blowing a little side to side. And some of us might be really comfortable with that kind of subtle movement or instability as it feels like. And others might find, no, I'm not unstable. This is my flexibility. I've got my root and reach, and I can afford to let the wind move me. So if you're not moving at all left to right, give it a try. Make it happen on purpose. And notice what your response is. Again, we love deep breath to be there. We love the lower and kind of center bodies responding to hold us, but without any neck or shoulder or tongue tightening. Now find as much stability as you can, and we'll challenge it first with either a kickstand or up onto the calf, and then adding any arm version that you'd like to work. Notice if your balance is challenged that it might be the inner line of the standing foot kind of peeling away. If so, push into the earth even more or think about squeezing back towards the center line, especially if your hip kind of cocked out to the side. You might also flare the toes of that right foot or the foot that's against the other calf. That gives us a lot more alertness than a floppy foot or one that's trying to grip. A few more breaths. And noticing if you're taking on tension in any of those stress spots that I mentioned. And see if you can let it be all about the core and the breath. Coming slowly out in your own time. When I mention core, by the way, I'm not speaking of the abdomen specifically or in isolation. I'm talking about the butt and thighs and pelvic floor as a part of our core. So as you're ready, come into kickstand on the other side or up to the calf. Again, check in with that hip that it's engaging towards the center line. Yoga toes, yoga fingers, meaning alert, alive, reaching. And if you'd like more of a balance challenge, please close your eyes. If the eyes are open, they're in a soft drishti gaze. And in your own time, coming slowly out. I often love ragdoll afterwards, so if something like that would feel good, please take your time, kind of shake it on out, roll wrists, whatever feels good. And then we're going to close using the block under the pelvis, the pelvic triangle, kind of the sacral area right here. And this is a wonderful release to use. In fact, if you've been doing a bunch of gardening or yard work and or anything, and you get that kind of tight lower back, you feel things just kind of seizing up. So please lift the hips and then place the block underneath and notice that initial moment of giving your weight to the block. If it doesn't feel great, adjust the block or come off. It should feel like, okay, this is comfortable. Maybe you'd like a deeper angle. If so, you're going to straighten the legs and kind of drape the body over the block. I like to work my shoulders underneath again so that my neck isn't feeling a lot of pressure. And this is meant to be a thoroughly relaxed pose, so there's no effort to hold the feet upright. I'm just letting the hips open, the thighs, the palms open to the sky, and bringing breath into the shape. This is a wonderful shape to notice where breath massages us. Often it'll get into our internal organs. Again, the low abdominal muscles, those psoas muscles, hip flexors, thighs. A lot of people feel it down in here. So just notice where your gifts are in this pose and think about doing this more than just the once a week or twice a week that you're in yoga with me. It's just really a lovely kind of self-massage. It gives a release, a little tractioning for the low back. And then notice what would feel good. Maybe knees to belly. And if you need anything else, go for it. Otherwise, please settle into your resting shape, your shavasana. And tune once more into your breath. And now it's just a passive breath. There's no effort of any kind. It's a breath that's just gently rising and falling, much the way a baby's breath would do as it's sleeping. And what would it be like to give yourself fully to gravity here? Letting a softening come into your forehead, your eyebrows, your cheeks and lips and jaw, all the way at the base of the skull where it joins the neck. You might even roll the head a little side to side. And as you continue to invite a softening down through the body, you can always add a little mantra, anything that is self-soothing or relaxing. Sometimes some words are more powerful to us than others, so it's worth just trying them on. I'll offer a few. Nothing to know, do, or accomplish. Plenty of time, plenty of help, plenty of money. I am well, I am whole, I am safe. And one of my favorite mantras of all, thank you. What are you grateful for? Each exhale, giving yourself more deeply to gravity. It's as if you are planting yourself in freshly tilled soil. Settling like a seed, waiting for the next soft rain. And if you have found yourself a very soft and relaxed space, I encourage you to sink into it further and longer. I'll be sharing the Om and singing bowl, and just let it resonate all around you. Or if you'd like, feel free to join me. Whether you're seated or laying down, please have your attention be on that long inhale before you create the Om. Please join me gathering that first breath in. Om Shanti Shanti. Om Peace Peace. Namaste.